Hey everyone, welcome back to Worth Fighting For. I'm Brian. I'm joined as always by Tamur. Tamur, how you doing?
Doing well, Brian. Glad to be talking about an actual decent episode this time. I think last week we were pretty harsh on the show, but I think as we were just talking about before we started recording, I'm back on the train. I really enjoyed this week, so yeah, excited to get into it.
Yeah, no, same here. I thought it had some great recreations of scenes from the game, and then that first scene, the new show only scene, really good also. And I'm excited to talk about it. Do you want to start there with starting in 1983?
Yeah. So this is what maybe like 20 or so years before the outbreak.
Yeah,
We get
right.
to see a young Joel, which this isn't, just for people who haven't played the games, this is nothing like anything we've seen in the games. This is very outside of that realm. We don't really leave that timeline in the game. So
Mhm.
this was interesting. We kind of get a sense of the cycles of violence, if you want to call it that, that Joel has experienced from his own father and the way he kind of is as a father. And, we see this through line throughout the entire episode as he's kind of, you know, trying to be a good father, having these like birthday celebrations for Ellie. And, but, at the same time, Joel is a very violent man. He lives in a universe, in a world where, you have to be violent to survive. And so it's, you kind of have to, not that we needed more of this, but you kind of give Joel a little bit more slack, and you kind of empathize with him because of the circumstances and his own loss of his daughter in the past. So yeah, I thought this was really interesting, and it's not something I think Neil Druckmann would have done, or even Haley Gross in the game. So it's kind of interesting to see them actually bring this to the show where it it makes more sense. It fluidly, fit in with everything we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's what using the medium of the adaptation to their advantage. Where like, yeah, because what would you do in this if this is a game? Is like it'd kind of be like a Telltale game. It'd be like take
Yeah.
the beer, not take the beer, like
Right. Yeah.
that kind of a thing where it doesn't actually matter, but they just
Yeah.
want to have like a scene and give you some interactable elements.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, totally.
as
I
you,
mean, it felt very lost. Like we talked
yeah,
about that last week of just kind of like jumping back and forth in time, and this really felt like one of those lost flashbacks where you hear the airplane,
yeah.
the engine sound effect, and then you get this 1983 flashback, and I think it works. Especially in the medium like television, like that's really how you develop these characters and give them more
Mhm.
depth. And yeah, so no complaints really from me. And I think
Yeah.
the performances were great. I mean,
Yeah, Tony
Joel's
Dalton,
father.
great actor.
Yeah.
Really cool to get him on here. Uh, he's going to be in the new game that Naughty Dog's making. So I wonder if that's like part of, it's like, well, he's already in the Naughty Dog, family. So let's put him here. But he's also like a great actor on his own. So yeah, very cool to have him in this part.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh, he was great. I mean, even just to kind of have such a small, like that, it's just basically less like a very short monologue to kind of portray that sort of, I'm doing my best, even though some things of my own father's like toxic, violent
Hmm.
nature like rubbed off on me, but I'm trying to be a little better. And we get that
Yeah.
same thing with Joel as we yeah, we see him trying to raise Ellie as his daughter.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting to see. So, like, he talked about his father punching him in the face and like breaking his jaw, and like that's horrible, obviously, like
Mhm.
um but then he's like kind of toned it down to just like hitting them occasionally as punishment, but not like as severely. So in his mind he's like, well, I'm better than my dad at least. And then Joel, I don't get the sense that Joel would ever hit a child, but like he still has that violence in him, and he still has like, you know, he'll protect his children through violence or through what he thinks right, and he'll disregard them in, not telling them the truth about stuff. So it's very interesting to see how like the trauma is passed down, but then changed from generation to generation. You know?
Right, exactly. And keep in mind, his dad's a cop. I don't think we
Yeah,
ever, I don't think that was ever revealed previously in the game, at least. So, I mean, that's interesting. I kind of like, the other similarity to like I compared to like The Walking Dead, where Rick
yeah,
Grimes is this cop, and he kind of has to use that skill to be a leader in this post-apocalyptic world, and kind of use violence where it's necessary, and so forth. And I think Joel kind of that's clearly rubbed off on Joel as well, and it adds up. It's like, how has he survived? How is he kind of like, where does he get these skills? Yeah, just it makes a lot of sense. And going into this episode, especially coming off of last week, which check out our episode if you haven't listened to it. We were pretty harsh on it, I would say. But I
yeah,
was afraid that this episode, I was a little nervous. I was like, is the show's quality kind of going downhill? And I was a little nervous that this episode would basically just be kind of the museum, and just kind of milking. Let's like, this was the Joel episode. It's like, let's milk it in a way that doesn't really feel justified. It's just kind of like, okay, we need Pedro Pascal back in the show. So I'm kind of happy to say that like the most of the stuff in this episode really kind of it goes along fluidly. I still have my notes nitpicking here and there, but I think especially this opening scene really is like, it adds more than probably anything else in the episode. I really liked it.
yeah. So we get Ellie's 15th birthday, 16th birthday. Uh,
It starts off with 15 or 16. Yeah.
and I thought it was a really sweet like series of scenes of Joel like trading for the cake and building the guitar. That was super cool, and just like
Hmm.
wanting to be like the best dad he can be in this moment. I thought it was interesting too. We have that scene with Seth, uh, who's I guess his wife's in charge of making the cakes, and then we find out he has grandchildren, and he also was a cop, which I don't know if Joel like
Right.
loved that because
Yeah.
he wasn't like, oh, my dad was a cop. He was
Right.
just kind of like, okay, yep,
Mixed feelings. Like, okay, I
yeah,
think I can peg you now. Like, I think I know
yeah.
what you're like. Yeah.
But I do think they humanized Seth a little bit more in this episode. He's a layered character, even as a side character.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think actually the his performance is really good too. I think especially in that
Yeah,
scene, it's like it accomplishes what it needs to, and it's not just kind of like a surface level. Like, here's a stern guy who like is a bartender and has a bad leg. It doesn't feel cliche. He feels like very well rounded, and I got to give it up to Neil Druckmann. He directed this episode. I think he did like a really excellent job. I think this may have been like the best episode in the season in terms of just pure like directing the actors and kind of working out these scenes
yeah.
in terms of
People are harsh
intentions.
on Neil Druckmann. I think he's a really talented like writer and director. Like he could totally be like a TV movie director if you wanted to. If games wasn't like his thing.
Oh yeah, completely. And I mean, granted, like half of the scenes in this episode have he's probably already directed them and
True,
like
true.
mentioned
That's a good
instead of
point.
doing a second go around. But at the same time, I got to give him props, and I think yeah, he did a really great job with this episode, and yeah. So I mean, this is kind of like we start off with on a really happy note. We get Ellie's birthday where Joel surprises her, and everybody who's played the second game really like, I think, admires this scene in particular. Is just so it's basically the happiest Ellie and Joel are in both of the games combined. It's like peak kind of them just enjoying life. There's no zombie attack. It's like he's just celebrating her birthday. He does like an amazing job setting all this stuff up, prepping cake, everything. So yeah, I think it was like really just honestly a joy to watch and see it actually come to life. Even though we don't get everything from the game, it is quite a long scene in the game, and
Mhm.
that's fine. You kind of revel in it. We mentioned last week, the big statue of like the moose being attacked by wolves. It's kind of
Yeah,
foreshadowing. I was kind of missing that. I wish they kind of had a cutaway, but maybe that's just something where it's like, is it worth the budget to have like a 2 second shot of that? Probably
I know
not.
it's even crazy because they built the room of the reconstructed fossils for the
Right.
show, and like we saw some behind the scenes stuff after the episode in that, but then they didn't fit it into the episode. So it's
Really?
like, God, how much did that cost to like recreate this set? And then they were just like, no, it doesn't work for pacing or whatever.
That's crazy because I feel like I think people would have been happy to kind of hang on to that. I think
Mm,
my impression, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, is like I think people would have been happy to spend time with Joel and kind of get back to what we had in
yeah.
season one of this dynamic between them. But I mean, it kind of seems like people online were just hating on it as much as they were last week, which is a shame. I kind of hated last week's episode, but I was fully back on board this time around, and a lot of it is kind of owed to a lot of these scenes, which are like classic. Like I still think about them to this day. I'm just
Yeah, climbing on the T-Rex, like
yeah, exactly.
iconic. And she did it in the show. And it was like, that Leonardo DiCaprio meme Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where he points at the screen. That was me watching that scene.
Yeah. Oh, me too. She's doing the thing. She's like, I think I even audibly said it. I was like, "Oh, is she gonna climb it?" And then she climbed.
Mm.
I was like, "Yes." Although I'm trying to remember in the game, don't you like because you're playing as her? Don't you jump off into the water or something like that?
You might, yeah.
I think that's how you get off of it. And I think that's also completely optional. Like, it is easy to miss that, but
Mhm.
it's anyway. Like I said, these are really like memorable scenes, and I just think they did them such justice. I mean, the astronaut part was like
Dude, that was so
perfectly
good.
filmed.
Yeah.
It was basically shot per shot, like the lighting, like everything was just so perfect about it. Ellie's expressions and her kind of like childish glee. It was so great, so satisfying.
Yeah. When they're like doing the oh gosh, what's it called? The not the mobile, but the crank planet solar
Right?
system thing. What is that called? That's a specific
I don't
name.
know.
But yeah, she's like turning it. It's like, wow, it works. And he's like, yeah, maybe someone greased it. And he just like smiles at it. Like he just like Joe just like cared so much for her, and like I don't know, it's just really nice. And they have such great chemistry as
Yeah.
actors. Like I mean, you can see it in like their interviews together too. Like they just obviously like really have like a father child relationship between the two of them, and it's just so cute. Crazy too. I said to Jenny when we were watching it, crazy Pedro Pascal isn't a dad in real life because he just like has the vibes of
Yeah.
being a dad, like down pat, like the
Pretty good point.
cheesiness, but also like a little bit of like the anger and overprotectiveness. Like it's so good.
That's true. Totally true. I know he's an uncle because he's talked about how when he accepted the role for Joel, like he has like little nephews that were like, "What you got to play?" Like he was like on the fence,
Yeah,
and they were like,
right.
"You got to play it." And it was just like it's such a funny story, but yes, but I guess yeah, he's bringing that uncle energy, and yeah, no, you're right though. Their dynamic is just like it's so natural, and I think especially during scenes like this where they're not hating each other and like wanting to break up. It's like it's just it works so well because I think they're both like so playful and they have
Yeah.
this like very innocent quality.
And it makes the fact that they were like at odds later hurt like so much more.
I know, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, so we get like kind of we get these birthdays like kind of year after year, which is funny because like I feel like usually when it's like 1 year later, you don't think like, oh, it's to the exact day.
Yeah, right.
Like in every movie, you're like, okay, so this is one exact year later. Okay,
Mm.
cool. But they do that with this, which is cool. And then I don't know. I want to ask you, did you get a sense of like they're drifting apart in between these birthdays?
Well, no, certainly not till they had the 17th birthday where she's like
Right.
smoking pot and getting a tattoo and having sex like all like at
Yeah.
once. That was so funny.
Yeah. Is that?
They would
That's not a
like
scene in the game, right? That's just
No,
kind of like
no.
yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah,
and
that's just
it
so
feels like
funny.
it
Like
fits
all the
right.
teenage shit at once. That's such a funny line.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was played so well, and I mean, it really fits in like as if it was in the game.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, I think after yeah, I think you're right. I think after that kind of moment, things start to kind of drift apart. She's becoming like an angsty teen, and he's kind of struggling to, what do I do with this like, teenage daughter. Um, but yeah, I was trying to kind of pick up on the cues between the years of like how much time are they actually spending together. Like he's not bringing her on these patrols. She's not really of age yet, so like I imagine he's pretty busy. I'm kind of like filling in the blanks myself of like what does Joel do on a daily basis, and Jackson feels really big in the show, whereas I feel like in the game it's fairly small, tight knit. Everybody knows each other, but in the game it almost feels, or in the show it almost feels like there's still a lot of like strangers. Like it's big enough where like people kind of don't all know each other, and um, so yeah, I was kind of like filling in the blanks of how much time they're actually even spending together, if they're actually drifting apart, whose like choice that is. He does have a line where he's kind of like, "We should do this more often." So that kind of like tipped me off. I was like, "Oh, are they just like kind of doing their own thing now?" Um,
Yeah. Or at least just like everything's really focused on like the survival and like being serious and not really taking days to just like hang out and enjoy themselves maybe. I guess there was that scene, right, where they're riding their horses back and Ellie looks at the fireflies flying in the woods and that like kind of gives her pause for a moment, right? That was after the museum. That was that day,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like right at the end of that day. So it's kind of like it gives you a sense that like she already kind of has suspicions. She might not know completely. Um, Not to spoil anything, that's going to happen, but just to, something that happens in the game, which they change in the show. I'm trying to kind of walk carefully. I guess if you don't want to spoil anything from the game, you never played it, maybe skip 10. Maybe skip like 3 minutes ahead. But in the game, Ellie goes back. She goes back to the hospital where Joel committed this atrocity and killed the doctor and kills all the fireflies, and she goes back just to get proof. And Joel follows her. Now that does not happen in the show. We kind of get a different Ellie where like she's very suspicious and she kind of confronts him, but she doesn't actually go out.
Mhm.
Um, I think that would have been interesting if they actually did that. And I mean, it kind of goes. It's kind of like how much can you fit into one episode, which kind of leads into like my biggest problem with this episode, which is like, why do they have to do everything in one episode? Couldn't they have like done some of these flashbacks earlier in the season, or even had like a longer season one where all this stuff was at the very beginning. We get to spend time with Joel and Ellie, and we get all these things before Abby even enters the picture. Um,
Yeah, I
so
mean, you could have I don't want to be like every show should be like Lost. Obviously, that's not the case. But I love Lost. One of my favorite shows ever. You could have had one each episode, right? Like
yeah,
you could have had one of these flashbacks and then Pedro Pascal's in the whole season. You
yeah,
know?
exactly. And I think that would have been people would have been a lot happier that way. And I mean, the other thing is like there's really nothing in this episode besides that first 1983 scene that's really surprising. That we haven't already inferred from previous episodes, and I think that's what
Mhm.
kind of bugged me the most about this episode is that um, the Eugene thing, for example. We were really looking forward to this Eugene reveal. Kind of just being what you would expect. The
Yeah,
biggest surprise was that it's Cipher from the Matrix. It's like, oh shit. um,
yeah. I mean,
he's great,
I
but
yeah. Lately, I've been watching The Sopranos, so I think of him from that
oh yeah,
first. But yeah,
yeah,
Cipher from
for
The
sure,
Matrix.
yeah.
Uh,
No, I would associate with him with the Matrix and kind of the steak eating scene. I mean, he's so good in the
yeah,
Matrix;
he's
it's so
so
very
good. Yeah, he's such a good
relatable. But
actor.
I thought he was great in this role too. It's a similar thing with the bartender, where like it could have just been this very cliche, like middle aged man who he's expendable. Joel's gonna kill him. But like
Mm,
the actor brought so much to the role, just with his like the way he speaks and like the
yeah.
way he's
That
standing off. Oh,
it's beautiful, and then like
yeah,
that's so good.
so good, really beautiful. Like the acting was just
Mm,
incredible, and a lot of that is like beyond the page. Like that's just clearly like an incredible actor who's done The Matrix in this
yeah,
project.
right.
Um, but anyway, back to like my bigger note. I just think like there wasn't really all that much in this episode that we didn't already know about as audience. And
Yeah.
obviously
Well,
we played the game.
how'd you like that scene as a replacement? Do you think it hit the beats that scene in the game did for you?
I mean, I I do like the fact that Joel lies again to her
Yeah.
face, and it's also justified in this case too. Like this guy, yes, you could bring him home and he might have an hour, but he also might turn and put Ellie, in danger. And it's really like mirroring that same kind of
Yeah.
situation on a smaller scale. And I think it is really clever to have him, do the same thing. And I mean, he's Joel's pretty graceful with it. He kills the guy, but he's not like mean about it.
No,
And then
yeah.
when he goes back, he kind of tells the wife a white lie or whatever's bigger than a white lie, but she's ready to accept it, and she hugs Joel, and as audience we're like, wait, doesn't she hate Joel?
Yeah, right?
And then we see Ellie actually reveals it because like she's really um and mad at Joel, frankly, for lying. And I thought that scene worked really well, honestly. The whole way that panned out I thought was great. And can you, in my head, it's like, could you have kind of kept this scene and then had the other scene after it where Ellie is so mad that she leaves and goes back to the hospital and he follows her, and kind of extend the season? Maybe this is like episode 2 or 3 in the season.
Mhm.
I kind of would have preferred that, honestly. But at the same time, yeah, I think that whole scene and how it pans out, it worked, especially within the context of like the show.
Mhm. Yeah, I wonder if they just were like, we're not gonna rebuild this set from last season for one scene. You
Yeah,
know, like I guess they could have done it with some like CGI and then had it in that same graveyard from the first episode. Maybe it could have worked, but like in the game, a lot easier to just put all the assets back and
yeah,
then I mean it's a game, so
yeah.
a
And
little
you have to
easier than yeah.
Yeah, and you have to wonder how busy Pedro Pascal is. I mean, he's one of the most popular actors right now, and I'm
Yeah,
sure he's getting a lot of offers and stuff. So it's like if they could only get him for one solid episode of just kind of you know maybe that's what they had to do. But at the same time, yeah, it kind of it makes you think like what could they have done to really like made this season feel more inclusive for everyone. And I think as we've seen online, a lot of people aren't liking how it panned out because of the way it's kind of all enrolled. But yeah,
yeah. What do you think of the alternate like POV of the New Year's Eve, where like we get it from Joel's POV now?
yeah, I like that. I liked it. I still prefer the way it pans out in the game because it doesn't feel as like crazy.
Mhm.
Like Joel pushing the guy down completely and almost like like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hurting him like severely is like to me like a clear overreaction. Whereas in the game, if you watch that scene, it's still an overreaction, but it doesn't feel like the whole room stops and it's like it ruins the whole evening. It's like
Right. Yeah.
it to me. It's, I don't know. It's just the way it's written and kind of blocked out. It's a little bit better, but yeah, no, it was great. It was great to see his perspective and kind of get like, okay, this makes sense why Tommy wasn't there. And you know, how does Joel feel about like Ellie being gay? And we kind of get like we finally get because when
Yeah,
Ellie
people were
to,
mad online that he was like not picking up, and like they're like he's homophobic, and it's like on like Joel is from 2003. Let's remember 2003 was the last year of the world in this
Like,
universe, we've had a lot of social progress
yeah,
like since then, you know?
yeah. In
And it's not like
2003,
he's
we
like,
got it.
I hate you because you're gay. It's just like it took him a minute to be like, oh, okay. You
Right.
know?
It took him like a year or two or something, but yeah, he's growing. He's growing. Yeah, no, it makes total sense.
Like,
2003 was not like a very
yeah, Ellie and Dina in one of the episodes go through a neighborhood with pride flags and everything and literally have no idea what it even is.
right.
Like
Exactly.
it's different. It's a different world.
Yeah, and they're not. It doesn't even seem like they're taught this. They're
Yeah.
taught to survive. They're not taught like social politics or anything like that. And yeah, I think it makes all good sense. And Joel's reaction when he discovers Ellie with this other girl, it's just it makes total sense. He's kind of like thrown off, and he's even talking about Jesse at one point. He's like, "Oh, so like, are you two a thing?" And she's like
Yeah.
laughing. She's like, "Hell no, you have no idea."
His yeah, his line of like, I have a keen eye for these things, and she's like, I don't think you do. That's great.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, it's like lay off on Joel. It's not like he's like openly like a bigot. He's
right,
like, he's also never dealt with this. Like his daughter died at 14. Like,
yeah,
he's never raised anyone through these ages.
right, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I listen. I'm just glad we got all this time with Joel. This was really like it kind of it puts like salt in the wound of Joel is not in this show anymore, and in the game, obviously people were really infuriated that they killed off Joel, and that was kind of the inciting incident of game two. But really, in the game, you get a lot of flashbacks with Joel. You get a lot of time with him, and the big difference though is that in the game, it's spread out. It's kind of like
Yeah.
you play a bit, you're on this revenge mission, you get more information, you get these scenes with Joel. Some of them are happier than others. Um, they cram them all into one episode in the show, and I don't know. That's kind of just that's even though I loved
It's
all
kind of
the
TV these days, I feel like. They're
is it
like, instead of doing like a flashback thing, we're just going to do one episode is a flashback. You
yeah. I
know?
mean, it's kind of like it's like a cheat for like exposition or something. It's like okay, let's just like crack out this one episode, and then it'll defend everything else that happens.
And if
Um,
ever there was a genre that like begs to have flashback elements, it's zombie fiction. It's
oh
like,
yeah,
this is this person today. Who is this person when the world was normal? And
exactly.
how does that inform who they became after the apocalypse?
Totally. I mean, just to bring up one example, let's take Michonne from The Walking Dead,
Hmm.
right? Like when you
Yeah,
meet her, she literally has two zombies on like chains following her. She has a samurai sword. She's like a badass, like can't be
yeah,
defeated. You would never guess that she was basically like a lawyer who like made a
yeah,
lot of money and everything before and they explored it in the Telltale game, which is really excellent. You haven't played it, but yeah, it's just it's a great opportunity to give characters more depth and
yeah. That is, it's kind of funny, right? It's like a canon to the comic, but if you don't play video games, you could miss it. But the Telltale games are also pretty easy. So if you don't play games, you should play the Walking Dead Michonne because it's really good.
yeah, it's like an interactive kind of story. It's you can't really lose
Yeah,
basically.
right.
That's what you're afraid of, but yeah, I mean, you take any character really from the Walking Dead, and
Mhm. It
typically,
explains why she looks like a pirate in one issue of
right?
The Walking Dead, where you're just like, what?
Yeah, that's the funniest thing. Where I think there's like a time jump, and then
Yeah,
you're like, "Where's Michonne? Where's Michonne?" You finally get like a full page spread of her. She's like literally a pirate on
all
like a
right.
ship. It's like, what the hell
It's awesome.
has she been doing?
It is not
Uh,
addressed at all unless you play the game.
Oh, that's so funny. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know. My biggest thing, just to kind of like to repeat it, is I really wish that this season was a full 10 episodes first of all, and that they had really
HBO just doesn't do it anymore. Tomorrow, I don't understand. Like House of the
yeah.
Dragon got cut down. This gets cut down. Like, what are we doing here?
I feel like they're getting worse at like budgeting. Maybe not HBO, but like these television producers where they're just like, oh crap, we spent all of the money on this first episode where the zombies like attack the base, so now we can't afford 3 more episodes. Whereas like Game of Thrones, they cut out full like war scenes just to kind of get the I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah,
um, yeah, for me it's like if I can reformat it in like to me a more perfect way, this season would kind of start with a lot of these flashbacks plus more. I think that's what people wanted was like Joel and
yeah,
Ellie, and I think it would have been stronger for it because Joel's death is kind of what comes before it. Let's think about it. Like season one, as we've discussed, 2 flashback episodes, no Joel, or no, at least no Joel and Ellie. Um, and then, they get to meet each other basically at the beginning of like episode 2. So it's like we have very little to base this revenge mission on. And so having like maybe 2 full episodes of Joel and Ellie doing their thing, living in Jackson in this world, and then slowly like, the truth unravels and they start to kind of resent each other. I think, that would have actually made it even stronger. But what do you think?
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what HBO does these days. They're weird.
I know they've renamed Max again.
Yeah, it's HBO Max again. Let's go. Remember when they had HBO Max? Oh no, it was HBO Go and HBO Now. And it was like two separate things. Like HBO Go was if you had a cable subscription to HBO, you could have an app, but then Now was if you just wanted to pay for an app.
Yeah. Oh, it's been so fucking confusing. I mean,
So
we've
weird.
always had HBO in my family just because, like, I don't know, prestige television.
Yeah.
But
No, it's same. Yeah, I would borrow my parents' HBO Go back in the day.
yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say about this episode. We get a moment of Ellie in Seattle again, but it's really just, kind of like the end of last episode where it showed Joel. So just to be like, okay, this episode will be in real time again.
yeah. I guess that's like a thing they're doing almost every episode now. I mean, they did with the WLF in like I don't know episode 4 or something. Um,
Yeah,
trying to
we have a
remember.
lot to fit into next episode, I feel like. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm kind of like wary because I'm like I know what comes next and what they need to kind of to bookend season 2 and kind of start a season 3, and I'm like I feel like she just got to Seattle, and
Right.
yet in the game that's like 15 hours or something.
Hours. Yeah.
Yeah,
So long. Well, we missed like a few sections of the game. They just didn't include them at all. You know?
right. Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, we haven't even seen Tommy yet, so
mhm.
I don't know. Like, I guess maybe we can get into spoilers for the
Yeah. All
game.
right. So everyone who doesn't want to be spoiled, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week for the finale. And yes, this is your cue. We're gonna talk spoilers.
Yeah. So remind me, remind the listeners what we're missing, what we need to like accomplish before the season ends, because obviously the season is going to end on Abby, Abby finding Ellie, killing Jesse, which is going to be so sad.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. We
and
had the scene in the preview of them running through the theater, and like it's saw so many memes of people like Jesse, no.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And then I'm trying to remember, like that's when they fight in the basement as well, right? And
Mhm.
Abby kind of basically like has the option to kill Ellie right there and then, but doesn't. Um,
Yep.
so that's a lot. That's a lot to get through. And then there's other. I mean, what else is there?
Uh, Ellie kills Owen and Mel.
Oh yeah, right,
So we got to have that whole thing play
right.
out. I mean,
And she
that's a
she
pretty insane scene.
yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. I mean, they're gonna go to the aquarium, right? Like,
Mhm.
damn, there's so much to. And then she kills that poor girl who's like playing a a PSP, or like it was like a PS Vita
Oh
or something.
yeah, that I don't think we're getting it because that would have happened before she killed Nora. Because
Uh,
she asks her where Nora is.
oh
So
man, that's too bad.
disappointing. No killing the last PSP player in the world.
Yeah,
In this.
no, that's like such a great like little, I don't know, that moment. I'm pretty sure she's like listening to like Ice Cube, and she's like playing her PS Vita or PSP, and it's just
Yeah.
like it's like, damn, Ellie, this is like the coldest thing you do. Like this poor girl is like enjoying life, like doing what most of
Yeah.
us gamers do nowadays.
Yeah. Just
uh,
trying to get through her shift.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
I
Uh,
see it's so intense too because like she like puts the knife to her throat and like she like tries to get her to tell her where Nora is, and then she takes out a knife and Ellie like grabs it and then she just like very it's not like dramatic. She just sticks the knife into her throat
right.
because it's already at her throat. It's like it's so like brutal, but it's so
Yeah.
like realistic.
Oh,
Like,
definitely.
it was like yeah, that's all it would take. It's just fucking a little and
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean that's like the game does it so well. It's like a lot of that stuff is so realistic.
like
Um,
Jesse's death.
yeah.
Jesse's there. You're having a conversation with him like 1 second before he
Yeah.
dies. Like you're talking about going back to Jackson and like the future, and then he gets shot in the face, and that's
Yeah.
it.
I
There's
know.
no like
It's,
big
oh,
dramatic moment. Is just dead.
yeah. Seriously. I mean, so yeah. I mean, I'm trying to remember what happens to Dina. Um.
Dina's like sick with the pregnancy stuff and
Yeah.
also her injury, so I'm guessing it'll be similar. Um, and Abby, she tries to help Ellie during the fight, and then does she get shot by Lev in that
Oh
fight?
yeah.
And then like
Yeah.
Abby,
Level
like
probably has like the bow and arrow pointed at her or
yeah,
something. Yeah.
and then like Abby's like about to kill her, and then like Ellie's like, no, please, she's pregnant, and
Oh
Abby's just
right.
like, you guys aren't like worth it, like leaves.
Right. Right. So I'm trying to remember what leads into like the basement, the fight, or I don't know the basement, but like the little fight between Ellie and Abby, which is like really fucking hard in the game.
Yeah, because you play it as Abby, and like if
Right.
you play as Ellie, like really sneaky and setting up traps and stuff. When you fight Ellie, she'll play like that.
Right.
And then you're like, God fucking damn it. Like, this is so annoying.
Yeah, because you're basically fighting yourself,
Yeah,
your
exactly.
own moves. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like she'll just like come out of the smoke and like slash you like 3 times and like run back and you're like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus you're like, I don't want to kill Ellie, so it's like extra,
Right.
sad and fucked up.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I mean that's pretty much like the midpoint in the game. So yeah, it's gonna be tough. They're gonna have to fit in a lot, and
My prediction is we'll get up to that scene where Jesse and Ellie run through. Jesse gets shot. Ellie, puts the hands up like with the gun, and Abby's like, "You, like, your friend." And she's like, "I know why Joel did what he did. He did it to save me." And then Abby has like, "We let you live, and you fucking wasted it." And that will
mhm.
be the last like scene of this season.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I think that'd be a good like way to end it. I don't know. People will be mad, but
Yeah,
I think it's okay to have a cliffhanger like that.
yeah. No, I think so too. But it's also like, what's the best way to set up a season where you're gonna perhaps hate this character and then come to really love them? And that would
Yeah.
be the best way to do that. But at the same time, like as a, I would be nervous as a filmmaker and kind of be wondering like, okay, what do I want her to spare Ellie so that she kind of starts off on a better foot?
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I mean,
I don't. Well, I think because that's what the game does, right? Like that's the end of the game where she's like, like let you live and you fucking wasted it, and
yeah,
then it does like the flashback for Abby. I would imagine next season's just going to be all Abby. You
yeah,
know.
I think so too. Until probably like, but yeah, but then then again we have Isaac. Like I'm wondering if
Mhm.
Isaac's gonna make an appearance in this next episode because like so much territory to cover anyway, but you do kind of need like a seasonal ending, like maybe some kind of scene with him that feels a little bit, like, oh, more can happen, but it's a bit conclusive, right?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I kind of feel like if I hadn't played the games in my head, I would be like, okay, WLF and Seraphites and Ellie's group, they're all gonna like clash, and it's just gonna be
Right.
like
Yeah.
balls to the walls. Um, that's like kind of where my head would be going.
Mhm.
So then I'm like, how do they play with that expectation? And maybe they save that for like season two. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see.
Maybe
I will be
preview.
here next week. See how it all ends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not all
Mm.
ends, but see how it leaves off.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're in the spoiler territory. Like, I am nervous about like kind of how this TV show works as like a 3 season show. Um,
Yeah.
as a game, like part two is just it's complete. Part one is also complete, and like yes, they connect, and like these are the characters, but as a TV show, like these are 3 seasons that have to like work together. And if there's a definitive ending, which we don't have a third game, like if they continue with the show, then we're in completely new
I
territory. And
know. I was a little surprised when they premiered Intergalactic the Heretic Project instead of The Last of Us 3. Because I was like, oh, all right, we're not gonna get a Last of Us 3 before the show ends, probably.
I know. So it's like, do they continue the show? Which from if I was Craig Mazin, I would be rooting for that every single minute of my life. It's like it
Yeah.
can't just end the way part two ends is so fucking sad, and it's perfect for what the story that the game's trying to tell. But as a TV show, like why would you build up to just this depressing ending? It's like
Mhm.
it would need more. And I hope they don't go past the games because like I want to play whatever that comes next, but
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what they do.
Yeah, we'll see. What do you think of the moth? Like, so obviously Joel's like, oh, it's like a butterfly, like change, and Ellie's like, no. The therapist is like, oh, it's like representative of death. But I don't know if that's like what I took away from it in the game. My interpretation of the moth and Ellie like being represented by the moth is like she's always drawn to this violence the same way like a moth is drawn to a flame. It's
Yeah.
like she knows the violence will destroy her inevitably, but she can't stop herself from being drawn to it. So I don't know. What did you think of like the show kind of being like, oh, it means like death, which I think is a little bit like reductive of the whole thing. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, I obviously, I have my problems with the therapist and everything. And I just thought that like whole, even just kind of Joel guessing in front of Ellie felt a little forced. Like the whole kind
yeah,
of, I do agree. I think it's kind of heavy-handed the way they talk about the moths, and I kind of lean more with you, where it's like it's symbolic for her because it is like this moth attracted to the light and it can't like resist, and it's
yeah.
that's what part two's all about, is like this violence that she literally can't resist because she's just on this mission, and it's so emotional
She's a
for
lot
her.
angrier in the game. In fairness,
Yeah,
like you feel it like oozing off of her in every scene of like she's just so pissed and like vengeful. She's maybe
yeah,
not as
yeah,
much in the show.
yeah. But I do, yeah. So I mean, I do think it works, just in the fact that like Ellie should have died to save everyone else, and that's really the big like that's the crux, that that's why that's what kind of like haunts her, and makes her resent Joel ultimately. So for me, like, yeah, the whole death thing, like it makes sense. I kind of wish they kept it a little bit more vague and poetic,
Mhm,
and like you said, like if there was a bit more, yeah, room to a bit more mystery to it, I guess.
mhm.
Because to me,
Right.
like Joel sitting down with this fucking therapist who like already hates his guts, and then like her telling him about it. It's, I don't know. I'm just like, this is. I wish this character wasn't in the show. Personally,
You have
that's just
so
me.
much beef with
Yeah, I
her.
do. I really do. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Uh,
Anyway.
yeah. Oh, so, and like, I guess the last thing is that porch scene was really great.
Oh yeah.
Great recreation of it. Pedro Pascal acting his balls off, just like
I
so
know.
fucking good in it. But people were like mad because he was, I guess, in the game, he's not like, I did it for you because I love you in ways that like you probably can't understand unless you have a kid.
Mhm.
And she's, more like forthright with being like, I want to forgive you, where she's not as much in the game, which I thought were good. And I think like for a television show, it works. But I saw people like complaining about it, but I also am like, sometimes if you don't spell stuff out like super,
Mhm.
like obviously people won't understand what's happening on
Yeah.
TV. And I've seen like that happen too much to where it's like, yeah, I'm fine with them actually like vocalizing it where they maybe didn't in the game. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not as tilted as people online. I think for me, like that scene was just so emotional, and even I felt myself kind of welling up. The performances are incredible. A lot of like single teardrops on like one side of their face.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
just like, it's like literally the pinnacle of good acting. Not really, but
Right.
it's just like it's amazing when it happens. It's amazing when it happens, and it happens so many times. I'm like, holy shit, they're pros.
Yeah.
but but I kind of see like to me there's been actually a few scenes in the show where they should have shaved off like the very last line, and this was another one of those scenes.
Mm,
The first one that or the other one that comes to mind was like in the last episode. A lot of complaints about that episode, but one of them was like she's on stage. Dina comes in. She's like, "Hey, like I think I figured it out. You ready?" And then Ellie's like, "Okay." Walks off stage. She's like, "Just cut it off right when Dina comes in. You don't need like this is just from an editing standpoint."
mm,
And it was the same thing with this scene. The very last line, she's like, "But I'm like, I'm willing to try." No, to me, like that should have cut off right before that line where she's like,
yeah. And it does in
"I
the
don't know if I
game.
can." It does, yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
I wanted her to say like I just can't forgive you, and then he dies, and then she's left with that lingering like
Yeah.
it's so bitter. It's like she what does she have to do to fix this? Like she has to go like avenge him. It's the only thing she can do because that's
Mm,
what he taught her. To me, it's more
yeah.
impactful, and so I
No, I
kind of
definitely agree. I just think that like people will be like, well, why'd she go then if she doesn't forgive him? It's
that's
like,
stupid.
well, it's unsaid. Like,
Right. Yeah. No, I think
guys,
yeah.
yeah, I just know people like are just so they're incapable of reading between the lines, so you just have to have the line sometimes.
Oh yeah. No, I know what you're saying for sure. I mean, listen, I'm sure not everybody listening to this watches Survivor, but I know you do, Brian, and you have your own podcast,
Yeah,
Showdown.
I've seen a
Um,
couple episodes of Survivor.
but on a more recent episode, there was one character, Joe. He's very well liked, and
Mhm.
he has this really sad story about how he lost his sister, and the last conversation they had together was like a fight on the phone,
Yeah.
and it's so emotional. It's like you have to feel for the guy, and it's like that you carries that as a burden, and
Mhm.
it's like that is so meaningful.
Yeah.
I think for Ellie to have a similar like burden to carry, to me it would have been crystal clear, and I don't know. Just kind of adding that last line, kind of like I don't know. It felt like it was either like fan service or like self service on like on like the filmmakers' parts of like
Mhm.
we got to make it crystal clear when life
I
isn't
think,
that.
yeah, I think that literally was just it.
Yeah,
They showed it to some executive who's like, I don't get it. Well, she doesn't forgive him. Why? Why is she mad that he died?
all right,
Like,
reshoot the
okay, we'll
whole thing.
just
Yeah,
get Bella back in here to say one more line.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh man, but yeah, no, I totally get. I appreciate it when shows do respect the audience enough to be like, we're not gonna say it, but I'm also like, people are so dumb.
yeah. No, that's true. It's true. And I think at this point, also with The Last of Us, like the audience is just it's such a loaded, it's such a loaded topic and loaded IP, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Oh
So it's
yeah.
like you're never gonna get everybody on board with every scene and every decision.
Yeah, well, I don't get it. The
Including
people
us.
there's like that subreddit, The Last of Us 2, that's just like a hate subreddit.
Right.
and it will pop up because it's like, oh, like other subreddit that you like, The Last of Us.
I
And it's
know.
just like these people hate the show, they hate the game, but they're watching.
I know.
Like,
They're like
it's just like,
screenshotting stuff I don't even like remember watching.
yeah.
It's like, oh
And it's
yeah,
just like, if you hate it, do something you like. Like, what are you doing?
yeah, totally. No, it's such a waste of energy, and it's kind of hilarious. I mean, they're really clever for like getting into my algorithm and our algorithm of like, oh, we love this video game, and somehow we keep seeing these posts too. It's like it's kind of fucking genius. I don't know how they do it, but um,
I spend all Sunday being like, yeah, I'm gonna watch The Last of Us tonight. Can't wait. And they're
yeah,
just like, did they just spend all Sunday like fuming? Like, I have to watch The Last of Us tonight. God damn it.
yeah, oh yeah. No, they definitely do. They definitely like have hate watch parties and pause it, and they're like yelling at the screen. Yeah,
I don't know, man. Like I see that stuff and it's just like I would never do that. Like there's
no.
something I don't like, I just don't engage with it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, same. At this age, I'm just like, there's so much out there. Like if
Oh,
like I
so
don't know,
much.
like
Yeah.
Star gave up on Star Wars like ages
Yeah.
ago, and it's like
Yeah.
have
If
some
it's
time
not
with that.
fun for you, then why watch it?
Exactly. But people are dedicated, and then something good comes along like Andor, and it's like, okay, now I got
Yeah.
to go back.
Yeah. Well, nice thing about Andor, you can just watch it without like watching any of the
Okay.
other stuff.
Yeah, it's on my list. I don't have Disney
It's
Plus.
really just Rogue One that you need to have
Uh,
seen.
oh yeah, no, I liked Rogue One, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Andor fantastic. One of the best shows probably ever. Like in terms of
Sweet.
telling like a whole 2 season story and the acting and writing and very of the moment,
Oh,
which is
okay.
good. And Diego Luna, so fucking good.
So
Yeah.
good. He's in
Yeah.
one of my favorite movies of all time, Y tu mamá también, which is
Mhm.
excellent. Such a different vibe. It's like very realistic Mexican. It's like a teenager, like or college students on a road trip. Excellent. But yeah, to go from that to Andor, I'm like, all right, you know what? This was a good choice of casting.
No, I mean, God, who was the Gareth Edwards? He was the one who directed Rogue One and like was
Right.
like, oh, we need him for Cassian. And I was just like, God, what a vision, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
Because he carries the show Andor on his back super hard too. Like
Oh,
he's
really?
in like almost every scene, you know,
Nice. Nice.
and he's great. Be interested to see what he does next. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
this has been like so much of his life spent playing in the Star Wars universe. Now he can go do other stuff.
I know. I think it can be hard for like international actors to kind of break in
Yeah.
to the US, especially if they have like an accent that they kind of can't like hide, or they can't like kind of coach away.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like you look at like Gal Gadot, and I'm like, how the fuck does she get so many roles when like her accent is so distracting?
Yeah,
I
it's
forgot. I
very
think she was like she's casted something more recently, and I was just like, this is gonna be so bad. I think she's in like a World War II, you know, uh movie, and it's like she's gonna be like Hitler. No, it's just like it's gonna be like so
oh
fucking
man.
bad.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. I just actually looked it up. Diego Luna, I guess, is doing a The Boys Mexico spinoff. So
oh fuck
I
yes,
don't know.
hell yeah, dude.
I'll watch. I love The Boys, so I'll watch that for sure.
Yeah,
But it'll be interesting. You know, I wonder how much will it be all in Spanish. That'd be interesting to
yeah.
do. You
I
know,
I kind of hope it is. Like we
yeah.
had a lot of not to go off track too much, but we had the last cult of the last the Walking Dead
Oh,
spinoff,
Fear the Walking Dead.
Fear
Yeah,
the Walking Dead, and a lot of that was in Spanish because it makes sense of where they're
they're
located
in
and everything.
Mexico. Yeah, what
Yeah,
are they gonna? Yeah, no, those seasons in Mexico are my favorite. Like
yeah,
of the whole Walking Dead universe. Like I love those seasons so much,
yeah,
just because it feels so different from
yeah,
the rest of the shows
definitely.
that are a lot of just going through the woods of Atlanta.
Right, right. Anyway, thank you, people, for indulging in our
Yes.
sidetrack of nerdy
Tangent.
culture. Yeah.
Yeah. Tamur, anything you want to plug or promote before we get out of here?
Yeah, check us out on Wicked Good Everything and Better Radio.
Yeah, I just put a video of replaying the first Gears of War, playing Gears of War Ultimate. I didn't play the OG version of it, but plan to do all of those again. The new Kingdom Come Deliverance DLC came out. Nearly done with that, so I think I'm going to do a video on that, and then just lots of stuff happening there. Those Fake Nerds, which is like video game pop culture news. I'm trying to do as many videos as I can on that channel because I think those like types of channels benefit a lot from like lots of uploads. We'll see. And then we can get sports channel, and yeah, like Tamor said, Better Radio. We got the Blindsiders, which is a Survivor podcast, as Tamor was talking about. Um, Nearly done season finale this week, which is exciting. See who wins Survivor 48, and then right around the corner, Survivor 50 is going to be an all-star season. Very exciting. So if you're a Survivor fan, check that out. But other than that, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.